Yeah, Mill doesn't want something like this Oriental society, and he sees too much of that in um, his own British society. And I wrote in previous pieces for the Agora about how contemporary his his account of conformity and of censorship in his own nature. He talks about everywhere everybody feels an evil eye is upon them.
Right. So he's worried, and I like this very much about your work, and I also like that you've done for us, and also I think it's a really important point. I mean, everybody focuses on the infringements on liberty by the state,
Right.
but you can have a state that imposes no infringements on liberty at all, and yet have a completely suffocating civil society
Absolutely.
in which social disapproval and social sanction muzzle speech just as much as laws would, right?
Right. And
Um,
I can show you multiple kind of arguments in the PC debate where people said censorship is when the government comes and takes you away. Censorship is when you get sent to the gulag.
I've said stuff like that myself. I've said, you have a right to stand on a street corner and yell your head off. You don't have a right to come onto my website and say whatever the hell you want, right? I mean, I've justified my own silencing of people on the basis of that sort of a distinction.
Oh,
But I
well,
think it's fair to say, I mean, you have to be very careful. You're not saying that Mill thinks there's never a legitimate exercise of social censorship, but that we're way too cavalier about it, right? I mean,
yes. Mill sees Mill does approve of social censorship in cases of impolite or impolitic style. And that's about the only thing that he explicitly endorses. And he seems to say that almost any position, no matter how outrageous, should be nothing should be censored on its content, which I wrote for the Agora. I don't find that quite persuasive. But yes, the main point is we use it with abandon. But I, to your point about censorship, Mill thinks that there is something which is not merely speech, but which is a kind of what I've called social censorship, where instead of using your speech to rebut or refute or attempt to persuade someone, you use your speech to try to impose a cost
for their
on
talking at all, yeah.
their talking at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are various ways to do this. You can just attack somebody's reputation. You can decry them in these sort of morally visceral terms that you know they will find distressing. Or what a lot of people do is, especially comedians have talked about this, certain people who dislike this or dislike what someone is saying will try to go after people's sponsors.
Yeah. That's the most common tactic now, is I guess to try to scare the advertisers or whoever it is, so that they'll pull their funding.
Right.
Um,
And so that's not trying to persuade someone. That's trying to make it so if you say something, you might lose money, you might lose your job, or it could just be you lose your reputation or will be put through some sort of ordeals.
right. So the distinction is between trying to refute someone
Hmm.
and trying to make them stop speaking.
Right.
Right. And I guess they could have the same result. In other words, the refuting of someone could cause them to stop speaking.
Hmm.
But if you think about this in the larger context of justifying this ultimately by appeal to utility, the the ends of speaking have been fulfilled there, right? I mean, the purpose of allowing freedom of speech is so that we can find out the best ideas and the best ways to live. And if I refute somebody, yes, they may stop speaking as a result, but it served the function of speaking, and that is people now know this is not a good idea, right? Because it's been refuted, right? Whereas if I simply silence them,
right,
we never get to find that out, right? We never find out if it's false, right? We never find out if it's...
In Mill's terms, we missed the chance to exchange truth for error.